trying to be the one that helps creates resistance. Allowing yourself to be a participant in the creative spirit's creation works. That's when you get to help. When you're on behalf of everything at once and in love with it, then it's just so cool. But I just found myself going to Walmart. I thought maybe I'll just go look at things and look at subliminal messages on products and whatever, but nothing was really catching my eye, of course. Then I saw this girl, and we both walked out at the same time, and I'm thinking to myself, I saw her before. I saw a look in her face in that store. She worked there. I'm supposed to talk to her. Or my conscious mind was, I would like to talk to her. Because remember, you have your own individuality. You have your own conscious experience of life as well. And your conscious mind may have a different rationale to what you're doing than the larger intent, you know. It's funny to watch that unfold. We were going out to her cars, and I just pulled up next to her, and I rolled down my window, and she rolled down her window. I said, hi. I think I'm supposed to talk to you. And she smiled, and I noticed right away she had that sparkle in her eyes. I could also see some pain. And the whole thing about her, she had that mysterious look. She was very attractive in her ways, so I knew, okay, you know, I could sense her whole life and how that would bring good and bad, you know, all at once. I just kind of could tell. And so I'm seeing that. Of course, I'm not saying all of that at once, but when you talk to people, you often have your own thoughts going, of course, at the same time. And that was probably just informing my conscious mind from the larger mind that knows both of us. Because remember, we're both components to something larger. And so I started talking to her. How are you? Blah, blah, blah. And we just started talking. And so the conversation started. I said, so what are you doing tonight? And she said, oh, I'm going to go get drunk. I said, really? She said, oh, I had a nervous breakdown at work. Right then I knew, this is why I'm talking to her. I see. Okay, so I just, at this point, just kind of let it unfold. I said, well, I think we should talk. And she looked at me, and her eyes sparkled, so I knew right away that she could sense that. She said, oh, well, I have to get home to my daughter pretty soon. I said, oh, okay, well, I suppose we can just talk here then. And then eventually she told me she's married. And I said, what? She said, yeah. I said, interesting. She said, why? Well, you said you had to get home to your daughter, not to your husband. That was kind of weird. And she said, well, I'm actually not liking him very much right now. We got into a fight, and then she kind of batted her eyes at me, like flirtatious. 2 years ago, I would have been like, ooh, naughty married woman. Of course, after my God-smacking a year and a half ago, now it's like, oh, that's another reason I'm here to talk to her. Problem with the husband, problem at work, wanting to drink. I said, you know, I look at you and I can see right now that you deviated early in life. You tried smoking marijuana early and all of these things, and her eyes made that look like, how do you know that? And smiling, that type of thing. I said, well, I don't have to guess, I just know, I can sense it. I said, but you know what else about you? She said, what? And I said, well, you're psychic. She said, yeah, I am. I said, I know. Now ask yourself, how do I know that? How do I know you're psychic? And she just looked at me and kind of smiled a little bit. It's a good question. How did I know that? Because honestly, my conscious mind was just pulling that out of nowhere. Almost like a guess. The conscious mind would have to look at it that way, but obviously I was right, because the larger consciousness knows that. I said, there's a sparkle in your eyes. There's a reason that you and I are talking. Look into my eyes. And I started to explain to her. I went through scalar reality real quick, like I talked about in The Healing Begins Now. And she understood it. And we started talking about her being psychic. I said, well, how are you psychic? And she said, well, I have dreams. I always dream about the next day. I know if something's going to happen, this and that, and all that. I said, okay. Do you know why? Do you know how that happens? She said, no. I said, okay, well, maybe it's you're not looking at time correctly. Think of it like if I took a long piece of string, and if I resided in that string, and to get from one end of the string to the other end, I'd have to follow the path of the string, right? She said, yeah. If I took that string and bunched it up into a knot and put it in my hand, to get from one end to the other, you'd still have to follow the path of the string, right? She said, yeah. I said, but if I'm on the outside of that string, or a new scale up, because we had already talked about scalar reality, I said, well, I could intersect various points of that wad of string, couldn't I? Just through one little poke. Like, so if I took a pin and went, I could intersect various parts of time. She kind of smiled, because she started to understand that. I said, think of like ribbon candy. Now, if you're inside that ribbon candy, and that's your dimension of time, well, you'd have to follow the loop and loop and loop, you know? I said, or you could take a pin or something, go right through the middle, and intersect various folds all at once. The same thing with the third dimension. We started talking about the illusion part of it. I said, no big deal. That's just kind of like how your cells are experiencing life in your body. She said, okay. She was following. And I said, let me kind of explain why I'm here talking to you right now. And I reminded her of scalar reality. Every cell in your body sees itself as I, and you utilize the consciousness of every cell in your body to see yourself as I. You also infuse every cell in your body. So I said, who is every cell in your body? It's you, right? She said, yeah. I said, you know, you're psychic and some things may start to be opening up to you right around now. She said, yeah. I said, you know, it's funny. Some people think they're dreaming up the whole reality, like nothing's real. How could everything be coordinating like this? How could that possibly be? I must be dreaming everybody up. And I laughed and I said, you know, what if one of my cells thought it was dreaming me up? Can you imagine that? You know, even you, the listener right now, imagine if one of your cells in your body says, they're dreaming you up. Everything seems to coordinate around them. Assistance they need, they tend to get. What if they started thinking they were dreaming you up? Well, that actually could be a very dangerous thought process. That could be the beginnings of cancer. No cell in your body is dreaming you up. The reason things would happen around it and coordinate around it and sustain it is because you sustain your body, which means you will sustain every cell in your body, correct? So we're laughing about that.